Hello and welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you a couple different ways of securing a through mortise and tenon. I'm going to show you one, and that is using a draw bore technique. That's a technique that's been around for hundreds of years, and it was used in the place of clamps. It's a very strong method of actually holding the joint together. Mortise and tenons have been in use, as I mentioned, for thousands of years, really, and they're used to hold together tables and beds and chairs and windows and doors and even buildings. Most timber frame buildings are held together with mortise and tenons and draw bore construction using the exact same technique that I'm about to show you. I fit this earlier together and cut it, fit it. We're actually going to take it apart again, and you'll see we'll just take this apart just like so, and I'm going to drill a hole into this piece right here all the way through. So we'll use a brace and bit. And we're going to drill a 3/8 hole here all the way through this piece. When I see that tip coming through, I will stop so that it doesn't blow out the back side. Turn this piece around and drill it from the other side. So now that we have had our 3/8 hole drilled through here, what I'm going to do is actually fit the tenon back together. Having done some timber frame work myself, I will say it's a lot easier to fit together these small pieces than it is a beam that's 12 inches by 12 inches and 50 feet long. But it gives you great respect for those craftsmen of old that would do this exact same technique without the aid of any forklift and such. They had to fit the joint together, and as I'm doing here, simply mark it, then just take that 50-foot long beam and take it apart like this, back apart. Now you can see we've got the hole there. Now, the key to draw boring is to actually offset that hole towards the shoulder. So in this case, I'm going to take and I'm going to offset that hole, in this case, maybe a 1/16 of an inch towards the shoulder, just like so. And that will draw that tenon up nice and tight. So I'm just going to bring this over here, offset it, and bore the hole all the way through. And now the holes will be offset. If you see inside of there, you can see the holes are actually offset inside. Now when I drive a peg through there, it will actually pull this together and make it extremely tight. Another method here, and I wouldn't usually combine these methods, but just for the sake of demonstration, let's just make a couple saw cuts right here to demonstrate another method, and that is the use of wedges to actually lock this joint together. Again, I wouldn't combine both of these in a piece, in a furniture piece, but I'm doing this solely for the sake of the demonstration here. So I've put two saw cuts like this. Let's put this back together, just like so. And we'll go ahead and drive in a peg. I'm going to cut a little peg here off to a little bit longer, We'll cut that off. This is a dry oak peg. And typically these would have been hand-shaped, even with little facets on it. Those facets can help grab the fibers as it's being driven in here. I also want to take and taper the end. So I'm just going to come in here and taper the end, and that will help feed the peg into the hole, and it'll help draw this up nice and tight. I like to use a metal hammer when driving home a wooden peg here, just because I get more of a positive blow with it, more of a consistent blow. You can see what's happening is this is actually going in. I had a little gap right there, and that gap is disappearing because it is pulling up tight, and you can see this is super, super tight. The shoulders are perfectly tight right there, and you can even see a slight curve in the peg because it's drawn it in nice and tight. Just a super way. You can go to museums and find furniture that was made 300 years ago that was held together using this exact same technique, and the furniture is just as strong and tight as the day it was made. Now that I've done the drawbore peg here, I'd like to just show you what you can do by putting some wedges in there. Again, typically I wouldn't combine both techniques here, but this is just for the sake of demonstration. I'm going to cut a couple wedges and we'll drive them in there. Couple. There's one wedge, and there is another wedge here. Now you can see these are somewhat sizable wedges. That's a fairly thick material when combined. And I think you'll be amazed at what actually happens when we drive these wedges home. Now I'm going to put the wedges in on both of these equally and drive them in. What's partially happening here is the wood is compressing as it's going in. It gets to a certain point that you don't want to go too far, but you can see it is actually driving in and securing that, making a super tight joint. And then I can come back, cut that off, even plane it, and you can see